Jake Retzlaff could be coming to a Big 12 school near you.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin, and thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in this, the greatest sport on planet Earth. Record predictions continue. Arizona State is the first conference champion up here on the show. Where does Michigan State sit going into 2025? That is all on today's show, which is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So, Jake Retzlaff has got a number of rumored destinations, and I'll talk about the hilariousness of his situation here in just a moment, but I'll start with a list that came out in a piece over at CBS Sports by Brad Crawford a few days ago that listed a number of potential landing spots. One of them, Northwestern. I don't know. Notre Dame is on the list. I kind of go, I don't know. Okay, then he lists a couple of Big 12 schools, or one Big 12 school in particular, and there's another one reportedly that could get into the mix. Oklahoma State and West Virginia. Either one of these spots make real sense to me. Real sense. Oklahoma State in particular. I'll start with the Cowboys. I'll get to the Mountaineers. And Mountaineer Paul of Locked On West Virginia talked about this a couple days ago on his show, that he's heard for a while West Virginia could be in the fold. I tell you what, it'd be a very Rich Rod sort of splash if he came in and Jake Retzlaff was his quarterback for game one later this fall. But the reason I think Oklahoma State makes a good amount of sense is twofold. Number one, they do not have a clear quarterback situation. They don't know who their starter is going to be. They think probably Haas Haney, and that's that could work out. There's nothing wrong with that necessarily. But here's the second reason why Oklahoma State makes sense. You're coming off a year that is the worst in the Mike Gundy era. I did not think in my lifetime I'd see the day where Mike Gundy goes 3-9 at Oklahoma State. And it just happened. And look, I'm somebody who last year, going into the season, was fading Oklahoma State. There was all this talk about, well, they made the Big 12 championship game. They've got the returning production. They've got all this. And I just repeatedly said, no. This is not a great team. They don't have a great quarterback situation in a quarterback deep conference. This situation is not going to work out. I didn't think it would implode to the level of 3-9, but alas, it did. It went even worse than I thought it would be. So when you're in that situation, of course, Mike Gundy has got a ton of equity in the Oklahoma State fan base. Nobody has unlimited equity in today's world of college football, not in the Big 12, which is as wide open, probably more wide open than any other conference title race going into this year and annually until a dominant program arises over the next 5 years, who we see as the perennial favorite going into each season above head and shoulders everybody else. So for Oklahoma State, there's not a huge amount of pressure, but there's some. There's at least more pressure on Mike Gundy than plenty of other coaches in the Big 12. Like, think about this. Who is in a worse situation going into next year if you go 5-7? Deion Sanders or Mike Gundy? I think it's Mike Gundy. Because when you've been there for a long time, here's the downside of that particular reality as a coach. Yes, you have some equity, but you can also start to formulate the storyline in people's heads. He's starting to lose it. It's not what it used to be. He's not what he was. Well, Deion Sanders doesn't have that sort of problem. Just as one example, by the way. Sonny Dykes got that big extension. I think he's still got at least a solid amount of equity after going to the national championship game a couple of years ago. They go 5-7. It's disappointing. I'm not saying there's no change in perception of the head coach. I think it's as large on Mike Gundy as anybody else, because you can write off one season, not on your taxes. You can write off one bad year as, okay, well, it's college football. He's been there for a long time. It's bound to happen, man. Everybody has a dud every now and then, unless you're Nick Saban. Okay, that's fine. But if you go and do it again, now people are turning heads going, one more bad year, you're done. So you're in a quarterback conference again in the Big 12 that is as deep as anybody in college football. I mean, there are no known commodities up and down the Big 10 and SEC. There just aren't. And that applies to the ACC too. There's plenty of talent, plenty of potential. But the Big 12, once again, is an incredibly deep conference at the quarterback position. So to go and get a guy that just led BYU to a 10-win regular season, to an 11-win campaign overall, yeah, that would make some sense. Then there's West Virginia. And West Virginia, to me, doesn't make as much sense as Oklahoma State because I don't see where the pressing need is. I've got them power rated as a bottom 3 team in the Big 12 going into this year. I'll pull it up real quick for my YouTube audience. I've got West Virginia 15th, ahead only of UCF. Both are undergoing coaching changes. I don't anticipate that, there are going to be big expectations over there. I don't have them. I don't think anybody else should have them. So that need or urgency to win right away, of course you want to see wins, but does it need to happen to where you go and get somebody in Jake Retzlaff that has an off-the-field incident tag with him, and some places might care about that situation more than others, but is that something you're going to go and put all your eggs in that basket for? Is that really worth it? I don't think that Rich Rod would need to do it as much as Mike Gundy would. But the other team that I've discussed before and keeps making sense in my head is Tulane. Of course, not a Big 12 school in the American, but a playoff caliber program. John Sumrall is one of the best coaches in the country that you don't know about yet, but will be a Power 4 head coach within the next 5 years. He is not going to be long for Tulane. He's going to win again this year, I would think. He's going to win maybe next year, and then he'll be a candidate for whichever head coaching job comes available. Like if Brent Brennan is out at Arizona after this season and things don't go very well, John Sumrall will be one of the top targets, and he should be. Dude's a really good coach. So I think that for the Green Wave, the only consideration they'd have to give, and it's a different situation than what they just dealt with, is the off-the-field issue. And this is what I talked about when Retzlaff first went into the portal. You're going to have to find a program that needs and wants a quarterback of your caliber and is willing to overlook the fact that there's an off-field incident. You've got to be able to overcome that. Your talent has to supersede the potential distraction. And Tulane was going to have the ultimate quarterback journeyman, TJ Finley. But what do you know? Off-field incident, he's been dismissed from the team. So the need for Tulane is absolutely real. And Jake Retzlaff could go lead Tulane to a college football playoff next year. This year, we're calling it this year because it is this calendar year and the season's right around the corner. I continue to think that Tulane is the option that makes the most sense if they feel okay and if their donors and their fans will feel okay about bringing Retzlaff in and the situation that happened at BYU. That's where I think that it winds up going. But Oklahoma State could make plenty of sense. Plenty of sense. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter. Speaking of the Big 12, the reigning champs. Are the reigning champs in the Big 12 winning 10 games this year? That's being debated next. First, this episode brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. And if you want to bet anything college football related, which You might want to because you listen to or watch this show. You're a college football fan. It's right there in the name, Locked On College Football. So if you wanted to bet on it, FanDuel is the place to go. You've got win totals that I'm talking about all the time here on the show. You have got conference title odds, national championship odds. It's all over there, and a bunch of games that you can check out the lines for at FanDuel. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Forks up, everybody, because the first conference champion, whose record I shall predict for 2025 without fail, the Arizona State Sun Devils. Richie Bradshaw of Locked On Sun Devils is here. Why? What a strange coincidence seeing you here, Richie. That's crazy town. So I'm going to give you my record. I will give you game by game, and then we shall discuss, and you'll tell me why they're actually going to go 12-0 is probably how this is going to go down. Their preseason win total, according to our friends at FanDuel, is 8.5. Do you know why that number isn't higher? Because their schedule is tough. It's really, really tough. So, Northern Arizona at Mississippi State and Texas State. That is not by any stretch a cakewalk of a non-conference. I would like to point out it is my ideal non-conference schedule setup. FCS, a Power 4, and a Group of 5. It's perfect. Everybody should want to be like Arizona State. Looking at you, Indiana. Then, I think they win all 3 of those games. Then you have a 4-game stretch that I'm going to flip a coin on to see where I think the wins go. I think you're going to win 2 of at Baylor, TCU, at Utah, and Texas Tech. Those are brutally tough games. I think you go 2-2 in that stretch. I think you beat Houston. I think you lose at Iowa State in a Big 12 championship game rematch. And then a W3 to end the year. West Virginia at Colorado and Arizona in the duel in the desert, or Territorial Cup if you prefer. So that's 9-3. That's over the win total by just a little. I can see 10. I think that's more likely than 8, but I lean towards 9 wins for Arizona State, Richie. Is that crazy to you?
No, not at all. Can you run those 3 losses by me again?
I can indeed. It will be at Iowa State on November 1st, and then 2 of Baylor, TCU, Utah, and Texas Tech. That will be a 2-2 stretch. At Utah, brutal. I think the Utes are a bounce-back team this year. At Baylor and TCU, I think they can drop one of those games. Texas Tech, of course, my preseason number 1 team in the Big 12, but you have them at home. If Arizona State goes 3-1 in that stretch, Richie, they might be right back in the college football playoff.
Yeah, I love this schedule, not in terms of like, oh, it's super easy, but in terms of like, hey, here's a chance to prove yourself. Like a lot of people, and I would say rightfully so, until further notice, look at ASU as the Cinderella team. Like they just kind of came out of nowhere last year. It very much came out of nowhere, and they end up having a Heisman finalist, and they go to the college football playoff, and they take Texas to double overtime. They're a play away from getting a win over Texas. I mean, it truly was out of nowhere. So they got to find a way to prove it again. And I'm someone, I want the hardest schedule possible because I want to prove that my team is worthy of that. Like, I don't like the cupcake schedules that you get in the pros. Like when your favorite team finishes dead last in their division, now you get to face all the other dead last teams, and I don't like that because maybe it's just a fluke season kind of thing. So I want to face the best teams possible, and ASU is facing the best teams possible. I love Baylor. I love Texas Tech. I love Kansas State. You don't have Kansas State, but you do have the other 2. I am bullish on TCU this year. I think that they're going to be a lot better than people think. Iowa State going there in November, that's a really tough game, and they are going to have revenge on their mind. And by that point in the season, they're probably going to have their passing game figured out. I would rather have Iowa State way earlier in the year, but that's not going to be the case.
So where do you think the floor is for Arizona State? What's the worst record, presuming no run of injuries, where, I don't know, just to pick some random... I didn't get to finish my random hypothetical here that isn't so random or a hypothetical. If you don't get to the point where you're snapping the ball to a tight end, what's the minimum number of wins for Arizona State this year?
Fun fact, that is technically a start at quarterback for Jalen Conyers, which gave us 6 starting quarterbacks in 2023, including a tight end, which is
Not
just
good.
insane. But as long as that doesn't happen, right, I do think this is a 9-win football team because of
Minimum.
everything that's returning.
You think that is the bare minimum that they accomplished this year?
If you won 8 games, I would call that pretty disappointing, considering everything that's coming back. Now, if you lost Scadaboo and Jordan Tyson, yeah, that's a little bit of a different story because they very easily could have. Tyson was eligible to go to the pros, but Tyson decided to come back with Sam Levitt. So you got the dynamite duo right there, going to be one of the best quarterback to receiver duos in the country this year, certainly going into the season. So you got that much going for you. And then the defense is loaded. They're all coming back. I love what you got going on in the backfield to try and replace Cam Scadaboo's production. Tight end is ridiculously deep. This needs to be the year that they get that involved. 4 of your 5 offensive linemen who were starting last year are back. This is just a team that is built to continue the success that they had a year ago, which is one of the reasons why I think they are once again going to be in the thick of it to win the Big 12 title. I feel like they should be the clear favorites because they returned so much from last year, but maybe that's some rose-colored glasses, admittedly. Nonetheless, this is a tough schedule. I love that you have Texas Tech at home. I don't love that you're traveling to Baylor and you're traveling to Iowa State. Those are 2 games.
And you're traveling to Utah.
Yeah.
Now at least
Utah plays ASU tough.
At least the year. Utah game is off a bye. But last year, the team, ASU, that went on to be the Big 12 champs, played a Utah team that even when Cam Rising was there, we learned, this is not the Utah team of old. In Tempe, that was tight. Like, I look at that game, if Devin Dampier is healthy, that's a mid-October game. Kind of going back to the Iowa State point that you made earlier. They have some new components, new offensive coordinator, new quarterback. They'll be pretty settled in at that point. Utah is more dangerous in November, but man, a mid-October game at Rice-Eccles, if that is a night game, the time is TBD. If that's a night game at Rice-Eccles, man, that's one of the toughest places to go in the Big 12.
It is, and Utah plays ASU so historically well. Since Utah joined the Pac-12 back in the day, RIP, they immediately became one of the most stingy rivals that ASU has had since the turn of the century. I mean, there is a bit of a rivalry in there, maybe enough that would crack that top 25 that the Duel in the Desert was not in because, nothing makes sense.
I think the Duel in the Desert is well above Arizona State and Utah, but based on how the Athletic made that list, then it might be Arizona State and Utah.
There you go. You're picking up what I'm throwing down.
I still can't believe that list, man.
I can't either.
It was so bad.
I can't either. No.
So bad.
But that is a really good rivalry, ASU-Utah. There's no name to it, and we don't get to see them every year, unfortunately. With moving to the Big 12, we don't have that regionality aspect that the Pac-12 used to have for us. But these two teams hate each other. And Utah is always ready to play. You saw that last year with banged up Cam Rising and then whoever came in a court. I don't think it was Isaac Wilson. I can't even remember who played a quarterback for them in that game. But, I mean, they played ASU tight, and that's just the way they always do. So I am definitely not counting that one as a win. That's one of the games I think is a toss-up right now. And if I were to go 3 losses, it would be Baylor, Utah, Iowa State.
I think that's very reasonable. Let me just throw this at you. Real quick. Do you have your official record prediction? You don't have to right now.
10-2.
10-2. Okay. You got 10-2. I'm in 9-3.
Baylor and Iowa State are my losses.
Do not sleep on that Mississippi State game. On the road, week 2.
You got that in my head, man.
In Starkville. I know. I have been saying it. Any chance it comes up on the show here in the offseason, Mississippi State is going to beat somebody they shouldn't in 2025. Maybe that's Tennessee. That could be Arizona State. It's going to be somebody. I'm not entirely certain who just yet. It's going to be somebody. Just keep an eye on that one. Doesn't affect the Big 12 title race, of course, but if ASU wants to get an at-large at 11-1 or maybe even 12-0, that would be something to pull off. But if they want to be an at-large, that game is going to have to, of course, be a win. And we're always winning when we get Richie Bradshaw of Locked On Sun Devils. Great, as always. We're flipping to the Big Ten to wrap up today's show. What should you make of Michigan State? I will tell you.
Over there, that strapping gentleman, that is Spencer McLaughlin of Locked On College Football, of Locked On Ducks. Spencer, last football season, you were called arrogant, you were called brash, but then the basketball season rolled around and you were called delightful. You were called very cordial. It's crazy what happens, when you're talking about a juggernaut of a team, and then, a basketball team that was just fine in their own right. But anyway, I always enjoy our conversation, Spencer, but we're not here to talk about how great of a person you are. We're here to stir the pot because you over there, you came out with your Big Ten Conference rankings. Now, everyone grab a legal pad and a pen. I'm going to rifle through these really quick. If you're listening on the podcast, if you're watching on YouTube, the graphic is right up here. Number 1, your Michigan State. No, I'm kidding. It's number 1, Penn
Wrong
State.
Wrong state, Matthew. Wrong state.
Well, that's okay. We'll get it right one of these times. We'll be up to number 1 eventually. Number 1, Penn State. Number 2, Ohio State. Number 3, your Oregon Ducks. Number 4, Illinois. Number 5, Indiana. Number 6, Michigan. Number 7, Iowa. Number 8, Minnesota. Number 9, USC. Number 10, Washington. Number 11, Nebraska. And guys, right here at a smooth dozen at number 12, Michigan State. Following the Spartans is Wisconsin at 13, UCLA at 14, Rutgers at 15, Northwestern at 16, Maryland at 17, and then those Purdue Boilermakers, they are the caboose on this Big Ten train. Spencer, okay, look, I'll probably edit this whole part out, but I'm going to do a little bit of business talk with you right now. We're supposed to have, strong opinions, hot takes. I'm supposed to be really upset at you. How could you disrespect our Spartans like this? But actually, that's a very fair ranking for Michigan State.
Thank you.
What's it like to be perfect, Spencer? Just go ahead, take it away.
It's something that I'm trying to cope with so that my ego doesn't get overinflated, lest I be arrogant.
I get it.
Of course. What was the final score of that game? Anyway, so
I lost count. It's okay.
It got high very fast, but anyway, the reality with the Big Ten going into the season to me is I'm trying to have the courage to do at the top what few people want to do. And I'm placing all of the hype, pomp, circumstance, and expectations on Penn State that I possibly can.
I like that.
Because there is no better situation for them to come in and win the Big Ten. This is the year. I mean, you have got the core parts and several other ones with upgrades at receiver, which was your greatest weakness, on a team that wasn't just in the playoff last year. They were in the national semifinal drive. They were one drive from the national championship game. And yeah, James Franklin's come up short in those spots before. I'm not going to sit here and argue that particular point. I heard the same thing about Jim Harbaugh for a long time in this very league. I'm sure the fans of this particular program that you host, Matthew, have no thoughts on
Everyone
that individual.
Everyone is smiling right now, right? Of course.
Yes.
Now, everyone's wondering, is Mr. Franklin going to get his Connor Stallions? That's just what.
Well, everybody's got to have a guy.
That's
you
right.
got to look.
It's good to be connected.
Two coaches that no one wants to acknowledge, and everybody has. Your sign stealer and your get back guy.
The get back guy. Yes.
Everybody's got a get back guy. You don't want to point them out because it sounds like you're hiring an intern who you may or may not be paying to show up at these games, who is there to hone in your excessive testosterone boiling over on Saturday afternoons in front of 80,000 fans. So I think Penn State deserves to be in that top slot, to be viewed that way going into the season. For Michigan State specifically, though, Matt, I do want to put them higher because I think Aiden Childs can be better. I know that they weren't a disaster last year, nor did I think they would be. I would just like to point out, before everybody starts saying I'm an MSU hater and whatnot, what was the biggest win of MSU season last year?
Iowa, which ended up being a really annoying game because where was that team the rest of the season?
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. But remember, it's year one. You can't expect perfection right away with any staff. Kalen DeBoer struggled at Alabama, for goodness sake. It can take a little while. Some people picked Michigan State to win that game. Some people knew that Michigan State was not a complete and total mess. It's just when you're in that adjustment phase, it can be difficult. Going into this year, I would like Michigan State more if I didn't also like what everyone else is doing in the Big Ten. Sure. Now, if throw the rankings back up there for just a moment so I can explain the differentiation that came into my head. Mm-hmm. With Michigan State and Nebraska, I've got two coaches who I trust because of a proven track record at their previous stops. I've got two young, incredibly talented, but not fully maximized potential quarterbacks. I've got a couple of systems that I think are identifiable and good. If you swapped Michigan State and Nebraska going into this year, I wouldn't hate that. I wouldn't have a major objection. I put Michigan State over Wisconsin. I trust Aiden Childs more than Billy Edwards Jr. And that's contingent upon, of course, Childs taking a step forward as a quarterback. But the reason I have them behind Nebraska and Washington and even USC, but particularly those two, Nebraska and Washington, is not so much about what Michigan State isn't doing or won't ever do. Mm-hmm. It's just I'm not going to overlook what those two programs have done who had, by just one game for sure, better records than Michigan State did a season ago. So Washington's got also a young, unproven, but really talented quarterback who doesn't have as much experience as the other two guys. But going back to the days of the Pac-12, RIP, Jonathan Smith and Jed Fish were both in there. And I know that both of these guys can really coach. So when I look at what Washington brings to the table coming into this year, I like the hires they made to replace outgoing staff like Ryan Walters at defensive coordinator to replace Steve Belichick. I like that they've got a really quality receiver. I still have questions about Michigan State's passing game. I know it doesn't have to be great. As an Oregon guy, I've seen what Jonathan Smith can do with the old stretch right and stretch left plays. You can you can do marvelous things in that regard. I really do look at, I looked at these rankings as three tiers, and I have Michigan State out of that third tier, because this is not a projection of conference standings necessarily. If Michigan State were to finish in the 7 or 8 range in the conference, if they were to go 8-4 and be, let's say, 5-4 in conference play,
great.
That wouldn't shock me at all. And I do think they're going to go 3-0 in the non-conference slate. So I think Michigan State has everything to go forward. I just don't know that it's a massive jump. And you can correct me if I'm wrong here. I haven't seen the moves or the sort of off-season buzz that makes people like me think, hey, this team's going to make a sizable step forward. I think it'll be, and I expect it to be, and Michigan State fans should expect it to be, a progression, a step towards where I've seen this program be before, which is the Big Ten championship game. I think Jonathan Smith can get them there. I don't think that all comes together here in year 2, but I do think they should be a better version of, it was a 5-7 team last year, right? Like, not far. This should be a bowl team. I fully place that sort of expectation on Michigan State. This should be a bowl team in Jonathan Smith's second season. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time, and until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.